Before we start a list of the easiest countries in the world to adopt a baby from, there is an important question to answer. Why would someone refuse to adopt from their own country? Well, refuse here may not be the proper verb. There are three major reasons why someone would adopt a baby in another country. First, in some countries, like mine, there are many more prospective parents seeking to adopt a child than there are children for adoption. With high competition, unless you are a wealthy couple married for years, your chances of having an adoptive child are meager. Second reason, in some countries, bizarre laws can cause traumatic experiences. For example, in Brazil, there were cases where biological parents went to court to recover custody years after abandoning their kids, and when the children were already adopted by new families, and they won the case. Third, due to immense bureaucracy, adoption in some countries takes years, and is nearly impossible in some cases. Be aware that in certain situations, your country may prohibit international adoptions from certain blacklisted countries. For example, Canada has stopped allowing citizens to adopt children from Nepal, Liberia, Georgia, Guatemala, and temporarily from Ukraine. So let's talk about the criteria for this list. However, before we begin, I would like to ask a small favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. First criterion, is the country a signatory of the Hague Adoption Convention? This convention is a transnational agreement about international adoption. Its goal is to protect those involved from corruption, child trafficking, and exploitation that can sometimes go along with international adoption. This agreement is important because it establishes formal international acceptance of inter-country adoptions to make sure the process will normally be recognized in other countries. This is the reason we will not see in this list popular names like Ethiopia, since the country is not a signatory of the convention. Second criterion, average adoption cost, according to the website consideringadoption.com, unless stated otherwise. Third criterion, what are the requirements for adoptive parents? While they are not necessarily in order, all the countries that we will mention here meet those mentioned criteria. So we start with Colombia, which is the easiest country to adopt from Latin America. The cost of a typical adoption process for a child from Colombia is around $35,470. This does not include airline tickets to and from Colombia, hotel accommodations, etc. Be warned that travel advisories have been confirmed by the US State Department due to criminal activity and terrorism connected to narcotics. The main requirements for adoptive parents in Colombia are: first, couples to adopt together, they have to be married for a minimum of 2 years. Second, they must have a positive net worth and an annual income of at least $10,000 per family member, including the adopted child. Third, there can be no more than 2 misdemeanors in a person's lifetime and no history of felonies. Fourth, applicants who have or have had a life-threatening or contagious disease or other conditions that affect their ability to parent or the quality of life of a child are not allowed to adopt. The next country is Thailand. According to Thai embassy, agencies give a wide range of prices, but for most of them are between $10,000 and $18,000. But don't be too excited about the low price. It doesn't include travel costs or fees for visa processing. Costs to stay a few months during the process in Thailand, however, are not expensive. In fact, costs are very low, and that's why many remote workers choose to live in Thailand. Candidates must be at least 25 years old, single or married for at least 2 years to an heterosexual partner, and before they adopt a child in Thailand, prospective parents must show proof that they have a stable income. IT. Depending on the specifics of your adoption process, the total cost of adopting a child in IT could range anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000, including travel expenses. If you are going to adopt as a couple, at least one of you must be 30 or older. And if you are a single parent, you must be at least 35 years old to adopt. Candidates above the age of 50 are not allowed, and only heterosexual couples, married or unmarried, are considered. And as in most cases, candidates must provide proof of employment and a stable income. India. The cost of adopting a child in India ranges from $30,000 to $40,000, including travel costs. Adoption can be done by married couples or single women, and the maximum age of the prospective parents depends on the age of the kid, but it's limited to 55 years old or less. Couples, only heterosexuals, must be married for at least 2 years, and candidates must have no more than 4 children. And now let's talk about the easiest country in Europe to adopt a baby from, Bulgaria. To adopt in Bulgaria would generally cost you around $40,000. $30,500 in costs can be directly linked to the procedure itself. The rest includes air travel and hotel accommodation. Parents between the ages of 23 and 49 can adopt babies from 12 months old or more. Parents between 50 and 55 can adopt a child who is at least 5 years old. Candidates must be at least 15 years older than the child they intend to adopt and must be either a heterosexual married couple or a single parent. And before adopting a child, prospective parents must spend at least 5 days with the kid in Bulgaria. Now that you know the easiest countries to adopt from, here is an unrequested tip. Be aware of physiological or genetic traits that are challenging in some places. This may be somehow polemic. It's understandable that many people would enjoy having a kid from a different part of the globe to join their family. But people in some areas have developed certain traits over thousands or even millions of years, and the only reason for this was to help them fit in with their natural environment there. Here is my own example. I'm an olive-skinned South American living in a cold part of Europe. Summers here are relatively short and winters are long and dark. Sometimes very dark. The locals are white, so their skin is optimized to absorb the most sunlight to create vitamin D, essential for good health. My skin, however, gets tanned very quickly and for a very long time. This is a good adaptation from my body to protect me from skin cancer, a danger in my tropical home country. But this same sun tanning adaptation also reduces the amount of vitamin D I absorb from sunlight. That's why during my first years in Europe, I suffered from a severe deficiency of vitamin D during the winter that made me sick and weak almost all the time. The problem was only solved by taking supplements, which I must take at least 6 months per year as long as I live in such a high latitude. There is no escape from that. By the way, in another episode, I explain why vitamin D supplementation is one of the 5 simple tricks that are crucial for moving to Europe. And this is just one example, quite anecdotal, but it exemplifies why it's important to consider physiological and genetic characteristics when adopting abroad. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe to our channel for the next ones.